Hello, my friends, and it's great to see you as always. So listen, this is the fifth video in the series. Gosh, we're almost finished. One more left, but this is where I give you a framework approach and language templates to help you master part 2 of the IELTS speaking test. So we have done people, places, events. Today, it's activities. Let's get into it. So let me begin with some of the recent questions, actually, that I would put in the category of activities. Okay, so here we have, for example, describe a time you looked at the sky. What a strange question. I look at the sky all the time. But day or night? So maybe it's not as simple as it sounds. We'll have a look in a moment. Describe an indoor activity or game. Describe your experience of learning a new language. Wow, it could be English, might be Russian, could be Arabic, whichever. Describe a practical skill you have learned. Practical normally is with your hands, but something also very useful for your everyday life. Describe an activity you do when you are on your own. There's all sorts of things there, from watching TV to reading to, well, you can imagine lots of different things. Let me just have a quick look at some ideas for some of these, because I was thinking about this, as you do, and there's actually a lot of ideas. At first, I thought that's really strange. How do you describe a time you looked at the sky? But then I began to think, right? So maybe it's stargazing. You know, when you're looking at the stars and you can recognize the shape. What do we call that? The constellation. You can recognize Orion or Pegasus, the constellation. And that field of looking at the stars is astronomy, you know, where you need a long telescope and you look up into the sky. You could, that's at night, right? You could in the daytime do cloud gazing, like Peanuts, like Charlie Brown here and his friends are looking at the clouds and imagining different shapes. So there's all sorts of opportunities and things to talk about there. An indoor activity or a game, well, at first I thought of chess and reading and even TV, but it could get much more interesting, right? Playing cards, playing charades or charades if you're rather posh. Charades is that game where you have to mime and the other people have to guess what you're doing, whether it's a film or a book or something like that. It's that typical Christmas game we play in my family. We play charades or painting, maybe. I mean, in indoor activity, I learned to paint, or I'm still learning to paint. And that crosses over also with describing a practical skill, right? That could be anything. Maybe you learned to cook. Maybe you learned carpentry, like this young man in the picture, making things out of wood, right? Maybe you learnt to paint or to code. That's really trendy nowadays. Designing a website. I've been learning how to design a website. Or maybe taking photos. Very popular, especially with younger people and older people. So there's a lot of things you can talk about. So when we think of activities, I think, of course, we can talk about what it is, but also how we do it. How do you do all of these things? Maybe we talk about the equipment, but also we can talk about the challenges. What's difficult about it? What's easy about it? How do you get over certain obstacles? Okay. So for me, all of the activities, you could quite easily talk about what, how you do it, and the challenges. And I think, as you will see, it brings out some really interesting language. By interesting, I mean good for IELTS. So let's look first of all at what it is. Now, you could talk about how popular it is. It's hugely popular, with that stress on the adverb. It's hugely popular. The reason I exaggerate is because when you're practicing, you need to exaggerate. Because when you speak naturally, everything shrinks down. So if in a practice position you say, it's hugely popular, in reality, when you speak, you'll say, it's hugely popular. If you don't stress it, in reality, it just becomes, it's hugely popular. And there's no stress. So anyway, have fun with stress. It's hugely popular. Or it's all the rage. Same meaning. It's really trendy now, right? Taking photos. It's really trendy now. Taking smartphone photos. It's really trendy now. There are lots of videos about how you can take really good smartphone videos or photos. Maybe you want to say it tends to be popular with younger people. Carpentry tends to be popular with older people, I think. So these are really nice ways of talking about how popular it is. The last one here is a classic, I think, really natural English, because very often in English we use the negative, right? Instead of saying, how are you? Oh, I'm really good. No, we don't do that. How are you? Oh, not bad. Not bad. Can't say things are good. Oh, I'm not bad. How was the film? Not too bad. It actually means it's quite good. But we tend to use the negative a lot. So here as well, we often say, okay, let's say I got a friend who went to Catalonia in Spain. They have their own language. He's learning Catalan, right? It's not the most useful language in the world because only a small number of people speak it. But he's learning it because he's going to live there, right? Exactly. Now, I don't know, what is something that is interesting? Well, maybe for me, something that's not really, really popular or really interesting. So, for example, an indoor activity I often play with my daughter is we play Monopoly. Monopoly is a board game. It's not the most popular game in the world, but it's fun. For many people, it's not the most interesting game in the world, but it can be fun, right? Catalan, it's not the most useful language in the world, with all respect, but I decided to learn it. Anyway, those are some examples of really nice language you might use with what it is. Now, how you do it. Well, for a lot of activities, like for example, learning a language, you need patience, you need persistence, you need dedication. So I think for most skills, activities, games, especially when they're new and you're learning, you need these things. Notice they're all nouns, but we can switch to adjectives. You need to be patient. You need to be persistent. You need to be dedicated. Okay, they're all adjectives. So really nice ways of expressing the approach to how you do it. It's not for everyone, right? So I enjoy playing Monopoly, but I know it's not for everyone. It's not everyone's cup of tea. Not everybody likes it, basically. Also with skills, they take a long time to learn, right? Languages, oh my God, they take such a long time to learn. It takes a while to pick it up. It takes a while to pick it up. Some things are easy. Well, it's a piece of cake, right? Because I learned French at university, learning Spanish, well, it was a piece of cake. It was a doddle, all meaning very, very easy. And also, there's nothing to it. Of course there is, but that just means it's easy. Right? You want to learn Spanish? There's nothing to it. That's not true, actually. It's quite complicated, as you will find out in my model answer in a few moments. But here is some nice language to talk about how. What about the challenges, right? When we do an activity or learn a skill, there are challenges. Now, the difficult thing about it is, so I'm learning to paint. The difficult thing about it is choosing the right brush. The tricky thing, I'm also learning how to design a website. The tricky thing about it is knowing which is the best software. There are so many. Or the biggest challenge is, the biggest obstacle is, the biggest hurdle with this is, so it's a great way. You're using there the adjectives, you're using superlatives. You can even throw in some nice words like pose. So playing chess poses a few challenges, or learning Russian poses a few challenges. So it gives you a few challenges. And finally, on a positive note, it's challenging, but it's worth it. So you should do it. It's challenging, but it's worth it. Great, wonderful, fantastic. Now, so we've looked at what it is, how you do it, and what are the challenges. So let's take a model answer. I'm going to describe my experience of learning a new language. And yes, it's Spanish, not Catalan. I've actually never learned Catalan, but Spanish. So if you're sitting comfortably, I will begin. So after leaving university, I went on holiday to Spain and fell in love with the language. I decided there and then I was going to learn it. It was quite a trendy language in England then. Good, eh? Because more and more people were going on holiday then, and I wanted to speak the lingo. Now, it's not the easiest language in the world. So British, right? It's not the easiest language in the world, especially when it comes to the grammar. And I know learning a language is not for everyone, but I really wanted to give it a go. So I bought some books and audio recordings and set to it. Actually, on top of that, I also signed up for some face-to-face classes. So every day I would read, listen, and write lots. It took a while, but I eventually started to pick it up. The big thing I discovered was that you need patience and persistence to learn a language. Gosh, it seems to take for ages. For me, right, one of the trickiest things, without a doubt, was the grammar. It's so complex. That said, the biggest hurdle was actually not giving up. Several times I wanted to pack it in because I felt I wasn't progressing, but I stuck at it, and eventually I felt I reached a pretty good level. So for me, it's been a great experience, and it's turned out to be really useful. I always use it when on holiday in Spain. So learning a language is challenging, but it's really worth it. How about that? Lots of interesting language, lots of nice phrases, 7 phrasal verbs. Not that I'm counting, but that's a lot of phrasal verbs. It means it's quite colloquial, quite spoken, which is spot on, right, for IELTS speaking. So let me take a moment to just tell you some of the language I used there. Bear with me. So after leaving university, I went on holiday to Spain. I'm giving the setting, right, the background here to it. And then I tell you, I decided there and then, meaning at that moment. At that moment, I decided there and then, nice, I was going to learn it. So I'm telling you, it's Spanish. It was quite trendy, right? Remember, popular. And the phrase speak the lingo means language, right? But we use it quite colloquially in England to mean language, especially a foreign language, to speak the lingo. If you go on holiday to Greece or you're going to work in Dubai, it can be useful to speak the lingo, speak the local lingo. going on. It's not the easiest language in the world. Negative, notice? Nice. Especially with the grammar, and this is so true. It's not for everyone, right? So maybe Spanish or learning a language is not for everyone. But I decided to give it a go. To give it a go means to try. Have a try. Give it a go. I bought some books and audio recordings and set to it to begin, to start doing an activity. I decided to set to it. I signed up for some classes, quite easy. I started to pick it up. So to pick it up is to learn it, usually in an informal way. You start to pick up a language, you start to learn it almost informally. And then, of course, you need what you need, patience and persistence. Nice superlative coming up. One of the trickiest things was the grammar. The biggest hurdle was, so you can see the superlatives are throwing in a nice, slightly more complex grammar, which is great. And then here I come with these phrasal verbs like a train down the track. I wanted to pack it in to give up. If you just pack it in, it means stop, right? Somebody is doing something, you say pack it in, just means stop. If you're doing an activity that you decide to give up, well, I'm going to pack it in. I'm going to stop and give up. Okay. Or stick at it. I stuck at it is to carry on, to keep going, especially when you're learning something. So it was a great experience. It turns out, so the result was, it turned out to be really useful. Great. And I used a cheeky present perfect. It has turned out to be useful. And finally, I end, it's challenging, but it's really worth it. Nice little idiomatic expression to finish. There you've got it, how to learn a language. So some interesting language. I hope you've got some good ideas. But listen, if you'd like to get more ideas and more sample answers like this analysed with grammar, fluency, pronunciation and vocabulary, it's all in my online course, IELTS Speaking, Part 2. It focuses just on Part 2 because I think it's possibly one of the most important parts of the test. So, if you want to check it out, click on the link below. At the same time, subscribe here for the videos. Come back soon for the next and last exciting episode of Mastering Part 2, where we will be talking, I will be talking, and maybe you're listening, hopefully, all about things. I'll see you there. Take care. Bye-bye.